guys, it's Karen and I am here to tell you about my experience with Wegovy and Ozempic weight loss injections. I have already done a video on Saxenda, which basically didn't work for me, but I got Ozempic and used it in July and August 23, so last year, but then it ran out. It wasn't available. I couldn't find it anywhere, and I thought that I was just going to have to not use anything, there was nothing I could find. But then Wegovy became available. Ozempic and Wegovy are exactly the same ingredient, so they are both semaglutide, which is a diabetic drug, as is Saxenda, but Saxenda is liraglutide, so a little bit different. So I thought I'd come and tell you about my experiences. I put a post on Instagram asking if you had any questions, so I'll answer all those questions today for you, hopefully. I'm in a really good mood because I just caught sight of 3 gorgeous labs out the back, black, white and amber one, and I went out and had cuddles with them, and actually I can feel it's kind of stuck in my throat because I am kind of allergic to them, so that's my own fault. Dogs always put me in a good mood. So I've got my notes here. I've got many notes. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blimey, quite a few pages of notes here, so there's a lot to get through. So let me get on with it. I was on Ozempic, like I said, and then it ran out, so I started on Wegovy in September 2003. So I had been on it for 6 months. I started on the lowest dose, 0.25 milligrams, or I bought the lowest dose. I actually started lower than that, and I'll explain that later on when I show you the pen, how you can change the doses. And I am now on 1.7 milligrams. 1.7 milligrams is the dose that you're recommended to go up to on both Ozempic and Wegovy. The difference between Wegovy and Ozempic is that Ozempic only goes up to 1.7 milligrams, whereas Wegovy, because it is actually a weight loss drug, whereas Ozempic is a diabetic drug, Wegovy goes up to 2.4 milligrams, so there is a higher dose that you can go to on Wegovy, so it is one I would recommend from that point of view. So how it works is it slows stomach emptying, basically, so that you feel fuller for longer, and it also sends signals to your brain to tell you that you're fuller, and it helps with the insulin resistance. It helps your insulin work better. So all of that combined means that you end up kind of eating less and losing weight. You inject Wegovy once a week, the same as with Ozempic, but with Saxenda it's once a day, with Wegovy it's once a week. And I actually prefer that, and I think a lot of people will, especially if you don't like injecting. I don't have any issues with injecting it. I don't find it painful. It's the tiniest needle. You have to keep it in the fridge, which, while we're on the subject, a lot of people left me comments on the Saxenda video saying you should have kept it in the fridge. That was what went wrong. It wasn't what went wrong. So I was on it for quite a long time. I think it was nearly a year I was on the Saxenda, and I kept it in the fridge for a lot of that time. But the manufacturers of Saxenda say you don't have to keep it in the fridge. But with Wegovy and Ozempic, you do. So this one stays in the fridge. You take it out once a week. You don't have to wait for it to warm up or anything like that, like you do with the migraine injections I've taken. You just inject it. You can't feel it going in or anything like that. It's like I said, it's the tiniest needle. It's not a problem. And I inject it in my thigh, and I'll explain why again later on. The pen that I currently use is 1.7 milligrams. I am up to 1.7 milligrams, and I was more or less happy to stay on that dose, but the 1.7 milligrams wasn't available this time. There is still a shortage of all of these weight loss injections. However, I think Wegovy is probably slightly better because of the fact that Ozempic is a diabetic drug, where Wegovy is a weight loss drug. So there's not as big a group of people looking for Wegovy, if you see what I mean, because the people that have diabetes are looking for Ozempic, and the people that are looking for weight loss. But I'm on 1.7 milligrams, was happy to stay on that, but it wasn't available. So I've gone for the 2.4 milligram pen. I'm due to inject tomorrow, but I will inject less than that probably. I will try and divide it so that I get 5 doses out of it and see what that works out to be. And it may be 1.8 or something like that, over 1.7. And I will talk about how to do that. It is possible. It's tricky, but it's possible. So the 1.7 milligrams that I'm on is £254, including postage, and that is next day delivery. I have been using pharmacy online because I have tried many different online vendors. And when I say tried, I don't mean I've tried as a customer and actually had it delivered, but I tried to go through the process with many different ones, including like Boots. I think Superdrug probably do it as well. And what I found was that there was so much information. It was just too overwhelming. I would get fed up halfway through the process, especially because they wanted things like a photocopy of your passport or a photocopy of your driving license and all of this. Whereas Pharmacy Online I found to be the most straightforward. They still ask for regular updates, and so you have to fill in the regular updates. You can get advice if you need to. When you order it, it tells you if it's in stock or not. It is delivered the following day. Whereas I tried with another company to get, I don't know whether it was Wegovy or Ozempic now, but I'd put in the order, was expecting it the next day. It didn't turn up the next day. I then got in touch with them. They said that they were out of stock, but I shouldn't have been able to order it. Whereas with Pharmacy Online, everything seems to be just as it should be. You know, if it's in stock, it will come to you and it will arrive the following day. I think it's probably a bit less for the lower doses of Wegovy, but I can't remember. I don't remember it being under £200, to be honest. So it is expensive, and each pen has 4 doses in it. So that's 4 weeks. So it's £250 for every 4 weeks. So it's not a cheap thing. You can't go on and order a higher dose than you need. You only get the option in the drop-down list of the 0.25 milligrams when you first sign up, because you start on the low dose. I think you can stay on that low dose for 2 months, depending on side effects, but you then get the option to go up to 0.5 milligrams, then I don't know whether it goes up to 1 milligrams then or 0.7. I can't exactly remember the increments, but you know, you then get more options in the list, and it will give you advice, and it will say, you know, if you're going to order the same dose and not increase the dose, please get in touch and tell us why, and we can, you know, figure that out with you and tell you what's the best thing to do. So they're really, really good. I haven't needed to really get in touch about anything. So this is the pen. This is the box it comes in. Just make sure my name's on there. This is the box it comes in. And inside you get 1 pen and 4 needles, because you'll need 1 needle every time you use it. This is what the pen looks like. You can see the liquid there, and you can see that I've got about 2 doses left of this. So the needle comes wrapped, and you pull that off, and then what you get is a needle like this, and then you just screw it on the end. I'm going to unscrew that now, because you shouldn't leave it with a needle in it, otherwise it could leak. You can see as soon as you put the needle in, you get 1 tiny little drop. Let me show you that if I can, because that will save you needing to do the test the pen. You can if you want, but they tell you whenever you use a new needle, you're supposed to do a test, which is to click it to the long dash and then press the bottom. But hopefully you can see, actually it's probably better without that, is it? Can you see there that there is a tiny drop on the end of that? I don't know whether you can see that or not, but there is, I promise you, a tiny drop of liquid on the end, and that tells you that you've put the needle on correctly. It's really easy. You literally just turn this to the dose you want. I've now got that needle stuck. Turn this to the dose you want, and you press the button. That's it. You know, put it in your skin, press the button, take it out. So this is where the kind of the magic of changing doses can happen. And this is what you might want to do if you are, like me, terrified of the side effects. I was so terrified of the side effects, I didn't even want to take the lowest dose, which is 0.25. When I got the pen, I wanted to take half that amount. So in order to take the 1.7 on this, I would just turn this until it stops. And then you'll see that in that window, it says 1.7 milligrams. But to take less than that, it's a complicated process, but it's doable. I would have to count the clicks. I'm just turning it all the way back again. And I sat and counted 1, 2, 9, 10, etc. And the total clicks in this pen is 80. And so in order to take, so when I got this 1.7 milligrams, I think I'd been taking 1.2 before, and I didn't want to go straight up to 1.7. I thought, I don't mind going up to like 1.5. And so I counted the clicks, and then I put the formula in here, I think. Yeah, so you take the dose, so this is 1.7, divide it by the clicks, which was 80 for this pen. It's different for every single dose. And that means in this one, there's 0.02 milligrams per click. I can then work out how many in 1.5 milligrams. So you just have to keep playing around with it. I did 70 times 0.02 milligrams, and that was 1.4 milligrams. So if I wanted to take 1.4 milligrams, I would do 70 clicks of this. So the way that I would have done that is put it all the way to the 1.7 and then reverse 10 clicks, rather than trying to sit there counting out 70 clicks. Hope that makes sense. I'm just going to put this back in the fridge. I'm telling you about the counting clicks, even though I don't necessarily recommend it, because it could be dangerous if you take the say you take half a dose. This is kind of what happened to me actually. When I got the 0.25 milligrams, I think there was about 25 clicks, say in it, 24. Let's say 24 clicks in that first pen. And so I thought, I'm going to take 12 clicks and I'm going to inject that. And I had no side effects at all, nothing. And I thought, oh, I wish I'd have taken the whole amount now. And so I thought, well, I could just add in the rest. I can now take it. It then gets complicated. What do you then do a week later? Do you then a week later take the 0.25? But also, it can get very confusing and you could end up taking more than you are supposed to. And that's where I would worry. I think if you know, even for myself, I sometimes have run my maths past Kev, or I've like counted it 3 or 4 times and I put it in my calendar how many clicks I took and what milligrams I thought that was. Double, triple checked everything that I'm doing, because I do not want to give myself too much. That's where you could get into serious trouble and have horrible side effects. But I wanted to let you know, because it is there for anybody that is, you know, super vigilant like myself and is scared of the side effects. I have a phobia of being sick, and so I hate being nauseous. It makes me really scared, and that's what I wanted to avoid. So basically, I went in an extra step every time I went up. So instead of going from 0.25 to 0.5, I went to 0.35 or 0.4 and then to 0.5 and then to 0.75 and then to 1. And it does also mean that you can waste money, because you can be left with a little bit in the pen and you can't necessarily use that, you know. So yeah, it's tricky. It's a really tricky thing to do, but it is possible. So that's how you use it. Once weekly. You get 4 doses, so 1 pen is £254. That will last you 1 month, £250 a month. And every month you increase to the next dose if you're ready. Up until 1.7 milligrams. Sorry, I've got dog hairs in my mouth from where I was cuddling those labs. When you get to 1.7 milligrams, you can either stay on 1.7 or you can go up to 2.4 if you feel that you need it. The known side effects from this drug are vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, constipation. That's just some of them. There are quite a long list of potential side effects, but these are the most common ones. The most common ones are nausea and vomiting. However, what I noticed was the place that I got the most information from was the drugs.com, which is where there are user reviews of all sorts of drugs, and this is one of them, and it's specifically for weight loss. And when I looked at it probably a year ago, it was mostly negative. I would say that the drug maybe got a 5 out of 10. Now it's got a 7.2 out of 10. So I think more people have tried it and more people are okay with it. And so that's really encouraging. It means that more people have had a positive experience. And there was 13% that gave the drug a 1 or a 2. So had a really, really bad experience and were like, don't go near it, don't touch it. So about 13% of people get really, really bad reaction to this drug. But they're known side effects. The known risks from this are, there's a particular type of thyroid cancer that is a potential risk. And it's really important that you understand potential risk. It's not a risk, it's not a known risk in certain terms, because there's not been any human studies. This was a rat study that was done, and rats that were on this semaglutide developed this rare type of thyroid cancer. So it does tell you that you have to actually specifically tick boxes with all of the known risks, and it tells you, please be aware if anybody in your family has this type of thyroid cancer, you probably shouldn't take it, or they'll advise you further, and to look out for signs. So that was something I was very acutely aware of, especially because I actually got a lump. You can't see it, all you can see is my bad tan lines, but in my neck here, there is a lump. There is an abscess type thing. It's not an abscess, it's just a lump. And so I went to the GP and was referred to a thyroid clinic, got an ultrasound of it, and it is nothing. It's benign, it's not infected or anything, it doesn't need to be drained because there's nothing, it's just a lump. But you need to be really aware of any lumps in your neck, any hoarse voice. Those are specifically the kind of things you need to be aware of. And you need to be aware that that is a potential risk. Like I said, it's in animal studies, it's not been shown to happen in humans, it's been shown to happen in rats, which doesn't always translate, but sometimes does. The other known risk is pancreatitis. Pancreatitis is just an awful, awful thing. And it's such a horrible thing to go through. And I have seen so many people go through it. The pancreas is something I'm very nervous about. And when I read that it's a known risk to get pancreatitis, I was just like, okay, that's something I'm going to be vigilant about. Sorry about that. That was my ice cream maker being delivered. I got the Ninja Creamy and I can't wait. As you can see, I still love my sweet stuff, and I'm going to try and make some healthier ice cream and sweet treats. Okay, so to the more interesting thing, did it work and what were the side effects for me? The side effects for me were so minimal. I have barely noticed them, to be honest with you. I've barely noticed them. When I took the first dose, I didn't, like I said, start on the 0.25 milligram. I took half of it and waited to see what happens. I waited 2 to 3 days and nothing. And I was like, oh, I wish I'd have taken the whole dose now. So I added in, I took another half and then waited a week and took the 0.25 milligrams. As soon as I started taking the 0.25 milligrams, I did notice a little bit of constipation. And that is something that is a common side effect. It's another known side effect and a common one. And most people have it, but nothing that is, too uncomfortable or problematic. But I would say that it's something you need to be aware of. And if you have, you need to treat it. So I eat dried prunes anyway. I like dried prunes, but I've made sure that I now have, and always have linseed in the morning with my breakfast. And then with my lunch, I'm having raw carrots and sweet corn. I take a fiber chew as well sometimes, just make sure you've got enough fiber. So it's never become unmanageable for me. I'm still regular. There's no discomfort there. I've had it once in the past, and I remember I was so uncomfortable I didn't want to leave the house. It was like, no, until I poop, I'm not leaving the house. But it hasn't been like that at all, even at this 1.7 milligrams. I've noticed that it does get more and more, you get more constipated as the more you take of it. But yeah, for me, it hasn't been a problem. You just need to make sure you manage it. Don't leave it. I have read some horror stories on the reviews where people have ended up in hospital because they haven't pooped for a week, but it's like you need to manage it before it gets to that stage. So slight constipation, very, very, very slight nausea for me, but so slight that if I'm saying slight, it really was slight because, like I said, I am scared of being nauseous. If anything says that its side effect is nausea, I'm unlikely to take it. I have got drugs called metoclopramide, which I take for nausea, but they're for my migraine. That's why I get prescribed them. It's not something you can just buy over the counter. You used to be able to buy, can't remember the name of it, but I used to buy some over the counter. So I did have them, but I would say I've been taking Wegovy since September last year, so about 6 months. Actually, I'm going to touch the screen now because my Wegovy reminder has just come up. I put a weekly reminder in. I've been taking it since September last year, and I would say I've had about 5 incidents of nausea. And excuse me, it's been so slight that I've barely even noticed it. It's been like, I feel slightly nauseous, but I don't feel like I'm going to be sick. I can just feel like, I might be getting nausea. It's almost like that, I normally run and take a tablet, but then it's actually been gone before that tablet's even had a chance to kick in. So I do feel like it's ever so slight. And one time I got it was because I injected in a different place. So I think that's why. They talk about on the reviews, if you inject in your thigh, you get less side effects. It may be because it takes longer to get to your stomach, whereas if you inject it in your stomach, it gets there quicker. I don't know. But I have been injected in my thigh this one particular day. I remember I was standing here talking to Kev and I thought, I'm not going to pull all my pants down. I'm just going to, lift it down and put it in my tummy. And about 5 minutes later, I felt a little bit nauseous. So I ran and took one of my drugs and I ate something because eating does help. Whenever I've had that little bit of a nauseous feeling, eating something helps. And again, I've read that on the reviews and it just was gone. So like I said, maybe 5 episodes, so maybe not even 1 a month. The other slight side effect I've had is a change in taste, but it's not anything major. I had that on Saxenda actually, because that's when I started drinking wine, and it's still only strawberry wine that I drink. I don't like any other wine. I've never really been a wine drinker. I've always liked my Bacardi and Diet Coke, but my Bacardi and Diet Coke doesn't taste as delicious anymore. But I'm not even that interested in the wine this time. I'm drinking my Bacardi and Diet Coke and enjoying it sometimes. But sometimes I'll be like, it just tastes a bit bland. And I feel like overall, it's sort of dialed down my taste. So sweet things are not quite as sweet. I mean, I had a Krispy Kreme donut about a week or so ago and I really, really enjoyed that. But things like my morning shake used to taste really sweet to me, and now it doesn't taste as sweet, and it's got the same ingredients in it, but it doesn't taste as sweet. So that's the only thing I would say. The food isn't as tasty to me for a lot of things. But that's it. That's pretty much it for the side effects. But I do have a theory about that I wanted to share with you, because obviously I'm coming from the positive side, which a lot of people are now. Like I said, I get 7.2 out of 10 now on the drugs.com website for weight loss. So I think more and more people are trying it, and less people are having these bad side effects. But I have a theory. Some of this is from my knowledge of drugs, you know, from working in medical research and in the hospital and whatnot, but some of it is just a theory. I have hyperinsulinemia, and I don't know whether I mentioned that already, but I was on metformin many years ago because I have polycystic ovary syndrome, and it's thought that most of the people that have polycystic ovary syndrome have an insulin deficiency or an insulin problem, potentially hyperinsulinemia, which just means that my insulin system doesn't work as well as it should. It doesn't take the sugars out of my system, and you know, and I have, as a result of that, I have low sugars sometimes, and I have to eat something to bring it up again, and I measure my sugars, and like I said, I was on metformin many years ago. So a lot of drugs can give you a side effect of the very thing you're taking the drug for. So for example, if you take a headache pill and you don't have a headache, it can give you a headache. And it can be really confusing if you don't know anything about drugs. And you can I've read it on so many of the things I've taken. It can give you a problem, you know, that you're already trying to solve with this drug. And I feel like that can happen when you don't have an underlying condition, or when the condition has got to a point where it's under control, it might then cause a problem. So what I mean by that is I have the underlying condition of an insulin problem, hyperinsulinemia, polycystic ovary syndrome. And I feel like those are the people that struggle the most with their weight. You might correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know what it's like to not have those things. So, you know, like I said, feel free to correct me on that. But I feel like that, I know that it gives you carb cravings. I know that it gives you sweet cravings. I know that we hold all of our weight in the middle. I know that we find it harder to lose weight. You know, I've been told all of these things by endocrinologists that I've both worked with and seen as a patient. And that the insulin balance is just not there. And so I've got a theory that because I had the underlying condition to correct with this drug, that's why I don't get the major side effects that some people do. And I say some people, like I said, it's 13% of people. I may be completely wrong. I just wanted to tell you about that theory just in case it helps you in your decision-making process, because I feel like for a lot of us, this is a really hard decision, and it's a really expensive decision. And so, you know, I want people to be really aware of everything. I want to give you as much information as possible, and so that you can make the decision and know that whether or not you think it's going to work for you, you know. And so this might give you a reason that it will or it won't. I'm not saying it won't work for you or that you will get side effects if you don't have polycystic ovary. That can't be the case, because I'm pretty sure there's not 87% of people, I'm sure not 87% of people have polycystic ovary, but you never know. But that's just my theory as to why I haven't really got the major side effects. Okay, so that's the side effects. That's all there is to tell you about that. I really haven't had anything else. Did it work for me? It did not start working for me until this year, so January 2024, when I was at the dose of 1.7. So it took a while. It took September, October, November, December. It took 4 months before I noticed any major weight loss. And I think that's because my system needs that amount, which to me is because it's taken that long to start correcting my insulin problem. And, you know, it's still not stopping the craving, so I probably need to go up a dose anyway. But it's taken that long to work because there was a problem there, I feel like, you know. What I did notice from it immediately is it filled me up. It made me wait longer for my meals, and it meant I could go without, I didn't have to have snacks in between meals. So just a little bit of background, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this before, but my eating habits before, I've always been somebody to eat healthy meals, as in a healthy breakfast, a healthy lunch, mostly a healthy dinner. At the weekend, that kind of, it's like Jekyll and Hyde, like I'll have a McDonald's, or mostly the McDonald's there's 2 reasons for it. One, because if we were out and about at the weekend and I had forgotten to make sandwiches, and we're out and about most weekends walking with the dog, I'm not somebody that can buy something from the shop. I'm so fussy with my food, but I could eat chicken nuggets. I know it's like really bad, my guilty secret, if you like, but that's what I would do, or a burger. But the other reason is it helps my migraine. That's probably a whole nother video. I always wondered why eating a burger and having a frappe would help my migraine, but I found that exact sentence in a migraine book recently, saying that if you eat red meat in a milkshake, you're not going crazy. It does actually help migraine. Anyway, so this was my kind of thing that I'd maybe do once a weekend, and even once in the week. If there was a day where I'd had a really bad day with migraine, it wasn't a pain relief day, I'd struggled all day, I hadn't done anything, my husband would be like, come on, let's go and get a McDonald's because it'll make you feel better. And it kind of emotionally made me feel better. I had something to look forward to because I couldn't look at screens, I couldn't do anything, you know, I was just good for nothing, but I could enjoy food. And it physically helped a little bit as well. I also have and always have had a really sweet tooth. And I've gone long periods without sugar. You know, I've done the keto diet and whatnot. And I mostly day by day try to not have sugar, other than I occasionally have one square of 70% dark chocolate, but not even that all of the time. But that's my plan for the week. What will happen is I'll go to the shop and buy stuff that we need, and then I'll grab a Snickers and have a Snickers. I'm terrible for that craving of, I'm in the shop, I've got to have some chocolate, and then it's just, you know, it's kind of ruined. And I didn't find the drug stopped that at all. It didn't stop my sugar cravings, it just made me feel fuller. And I used to get up and be desperate to have my breakfast. I'd get up about 6, half 6, I'd get up and think, right, breakfast time. And then I'd be like tapping my fingers at 11 o'clock, like, when is it lunchtime? I need to eat something. Then after lunch, I'd be tapping my fingers, when is it dinner time? And Kev doesn't come home until like 7:30. And so we were getting to have dinner later and later. And I was really struggling with that. But as soon as I started taking the 0.25 milligrams, I found that I could have my breakfast later. I could go from breakfast to lunch without having any snacks. I could go from lunch to dinner without having snacks. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't like, I need to eat right now, because for migraine, I'm supposed to eat regularly and not have those, you know, sugar dips. And it would make me really cranky, but I'm not like that anymore. I don't get that same feeling. But I can go from lunch, which I probably don't have until 2 o'clock now, and I used to have it. I was lucky if I got to 12 o'clock, but I can go from then until 7 o'clock. And I'm hungry and I'm ready for dinner, but I'm not like, oh my God, I'm gnawing my arm off, you know. And then I wouldn't eat as much of the dinner as it happens. But I that was in September last year, but for those 4 months up to Christmas, I didn't put weight on and I didn't lose. Like, I lost a little bit, but then I'd put it right back on again. This is the sheet. I folded it over because that's my husband's details. We record our weight every Sunday because we're normally weighing Watson, and he kind of goes up and down a little bit, but Watson's our dog, by the way. And we've got that, you know, option on the scales where you press tar and he lifts Watson up, get a weight, put him down, and it tells you what he weighs. But I didn't think it was right to include my husband's weight. But in September, when I started this, I was 84 kilograms. And that is 13 stone 2 or 185 pounds, just so that everybody can understand that weight. And from then until January, I kind of lost weight and put it back on again, lost weight and put it back on again. You know, it was -2 + 2. -2 + 1, you know, I was going up and down constantly, but overall was staying about the same weight. And I was pretty happy with that, which is why I continued on the drug, because I thought, although I'm not losing weight, I'm not at you can't judge it really until you're at the 1.7, because that is the dose you stay on and the dose that's fully working for you. And honestly, I have been putting weight on over the last couple of years gradually, so I was glad to overall be staying the same weight. But in January, it really started to take effect, and I started noticing that I would, for example, at the weekends, I would take a sandwich with this. I'd take an egg mayonnaise sandwich or like a protein bagel, and I cut it in half. But I would only eat one half, and I wouldn't want the second half. For dinner on a Saturday night, we have just a homemade pizza, and we have half of this pizza each, which is 4 slices, and I was only having 3 and giving the other one to Kev. And so I definitely started reducing my portion size from January this year, and that's where the weight loss has happened. So I am now 12 stone 0, which is 169 pounds, and kilos wise, I'm 76 kilos. So I have lost you could say since September, but most of that, like 90% of that, is since January. I've lost 1 stone and 2 pounds, or 16 pounds, 1 stone and 4 pounds, is it? 16 pounds I've lost. So I'm pretty happy with that, because like I said, that has all been, have a look at this if I fold it over, so you can see since January. So it's been -2 pounds, -1 pound, -1 pound. This is weekly. 0, I stayed the same. -2 pounds, -half a pound, -2 pounds, -0, and then just this Sunday gone, -2 pounds. So I'm losing about 1 or 2 pounds a week, which I'm really, really happy with. And like I said, overall, I've lost over a stone. Clothes size, I have gone from, I would have said I was a 14 on top and a 16 on bottom before, and I would say now I'm a 12 on top and a 14 on the bottom. Although when I buy River Island jeans, River Island is where I get my jeans from, I've bought an 18 for quite a while. I bought a new pair recently and they were a size 16. So I've gone down 1 dress size. So it's definitely working. But like I said, the way that it's working for me is I'm eating smaller portions of my meals. I'm still snacking, but nowhere near as much. I found that I don't want to drink as much like I used to on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'd normally have 2 or sometimes 3 Bacardis. And I'd have a bag of snacks to go with them, normally like crisps, whereas now I'm having either a couple of slices of cheese and 1 Bacardi. I only have 1 Bacardi, occasionally 2, but normally just 1. And like I said, a slice of cheese, maybe a handful of popcorn, something like that. I'm just not eating as much. I'm eating and drinking the things I like, but I'm not having as much of them. What I have realised is that I need to now be a bit more, I'm going to tell you what I eat in a day, by the way, but I now need to be a bit more cognizant of making new habits. I need to create some new habits of eating healthily, and I need to cut out the sugar again. I need to like completely cut out the sugar, because there was a day a couple of weeks ago where I went into town and I hadn't fully prepared. I'd gone shopping and I hadn't prepared and taken lunch with me, and I went past a Krispy Kreme shop and I had a Krispy Kreme donut. And then I didn't have any lunch that day, I just had dinner, and that's not good. Like, when you're hungry, you should eat something healthy. And then you won't, with this injection, you probably won't want or can resist the donut. Oh, the other thing I should say is I did join the gym in December. I can only go once, maximum twice a week, because of on my pain relief days from migraine, and I don't tend to go at the weekend. But I have done yoga once a week since January, so I don't know if that's contributed to this weight loss or not, but it's not like I'm doing an intense workout every day. I go yoga once a week, and I have been to the gym a couple of times in between that, so maximum twice a week. And I'm not like running on the treadmill, I'm walking uphill on the treadmill for 20 minutes and then do 20 minutes on the bike. So let me tell you what I currently eat in a day. Well, actually, let me tell you what I eat in a day in the week and what I eat in the day at the weekend when I'm being bad, if you like. So I currently have my shake for breakfast. I've gone between having Greek yogurt and my shake, but I've had my shake for years. I've just reduced the amount I have in it. So I have 300 ml of Alpro unsweetened milk. To that, I add 20 grams of Options salted caramel. It's a hot drink, a hot chocolate drink. So I just put the powder in. I put 20 grams in. I used to put 30 grams in. So 300 mils of milk. I have done a video on this before. I also put in there a tiny little bit of cacao powder. I put in 10 grams of peanut butter, no added sugar peanut butter. I used to put in 20 grams, and I put in some linseeds, and then I blend it in my NutriBullet, and that's my breakfast. And I still enjoy it. I've read a lot of reviews where people don't really enjoy their food anymore and are forcing themselves to eat. I'm still enjoying it. It doesn't taste as sweet as it used to. I definitely think this has reduced the sweet taste for me, but I still enjoy it. I really enjoy my breakfast, and that keeps me full up until, I'll have that about 8, 9 o'clock. That keeps me full up until 2 o'clock. I probably could manage intermittent fasting on this in terms of food, but I like to have my tea. I couldn't go with nothing until, in between those hours. I mean, I could if I got used to it, but I suppose I just don't want to at the moment. So I have my breakfast. Then for lunch, I've got into the habit of boiling up my eggs on a Sunday for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at least. So I have a boiled egg for my lunch with a corn on the cob and some raw carrots. And I have a little bit of butter on the corn on the cob and a little bit of salt, and that fills me up nicely. And it's probably only about 250 calories for that lunch, but it fills me up. I like that I've had some vegetables, even though it's not the best vegetables, I know it's sweet vegetables that I like, but that fills me up until like 7 o'clock when we have our dinner. I do normally in the afternoon though have some fruit, and that'll either be an apple, or I'll have some watermelon or some blueberries, or kind of whatever I've got in. For dinner, I will have salmon, a whole salmon fillet, and then I make some new potatoes. I've always eaten new potatoes. That's the only potatoes I eat because they're better for your blood sugar. And I've always had problems with, carbs and blood sugar and the like. So I'll have some new potatoes, but I do put them in a bit of oil and I do them in the air fryer, and they're delicious. And so that's what I'm having for my dinner. Then in the week, I won't have anything to drink, obviously, in the evening, but other than like a Diet Coke or something, maybe, or just water. I might have a couple of slices of cheese if I'm peckish or want to snack. And that's pretty much it, unless Kev has brought me home a bar of chocolate, which he sometimes does, or a cake or something like that, which, that might happen a couple of times midweek, 1 or 2 times midweek, which I keep telling him not to. The weekends are different. If I remember to make sandwiches, then that's fine. We take sandwiches for us, and then we might buy a cake to have between us with a cup of tea later in the day. But it can still work out that I haven't had time to make sandwiches, or I've been too ill to make sandwiches, and then we'll end up stopping from McDonald's because, like I said, I'm so fussy with food. I would say probably once every 3 or 4 weeks I'll have a McDonald's at the weekend because I've not made sandwiches. Or if I'm at home and I'm not going on the family walk, I will make myself a toastie, which is quite naughty, or naughtier than a sandwich, because you put butter on the outside as well. Same breakfast, I have my shake. And then dinner on a Saturday night, we have a pizza. Sunday night, we normally have chicken noodles. So it's not too bad. But I just think portion size for me is where the weight's coming off. But like I said, I need to be cutting out the sugary ones, and just focus on eating more vegetables and more food, proper food, I think that's everything for my experience, which, as you can tell, has been a good one. I'm a dress size less. I feel I'm now at that point where I've still got 2 stone to lose. I would like to be about 10 stone, but if I get to 11 stone, I think I'll be happy. So another stone. I've now gone from having a BMI of 31, which is obese, to a BMI of 29, which is overweight. So I'm really happy with that. I've changed category. I also think that I feel better. Like I feel a little bit more confident, and that's saying something, because I felt so bad being that higher weight that I was, that I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to join the gym because I was too embarrassed to go to a class. But I've now been to a yoga class, and I'm like, I don't love my body, I don't love my weight, but I'm at that stage where I don't feel embarrassed to go out, and it has made a huge difference. And so I'm excited about the future in that respect. I think a lot of things might change if I do manage to lose another stone. And I'll get back my love for clothes as well. I can already feel that coming back to me, enjoying clothes. I don't feel like they're digging in, and it's not quite so hard to find something that fits and something that looks okay, because all of my weight was, in my middle area. So I am absolutely delighted with it. Just a word on how I feel about the long-term effects of things, because actually, no, let me tell you the answer to these Instagram questions, because they are talking about the long-term effects, and then I can tell you how I feel about it. So the Instagram questions were, is there a shortage of it in Scotland as there is in England? Yes, there is. There's a UK, I think there's a worldwide shortage actually, but there is definitely a UK shortage. But I haven't had any trouble ordering from pharmacy online since September, until this last order I put in. I couldn't order my 1.7, I had to get my 2.4 milligrams. So I'm just gonna count the clicks, work out the maths, and adjust that. I'll try and put a little summary in for you in the description on how to do that. The next question was, what is the long-term effect on kidneys, liver, and pancreas? So for the kidneys, if you look it up on Google, it will tell you that there is a potential risk of injury to the kidneys. But when you look further into this, it will tell you, you'll realise that it's actually mostly in people that are diabetics. All of the studies that they've been doing is about, like, Ozempic, semaglutide on people with diabetes. And it can be an acute injury, so it's a short-term thing that goes away. And we don't know whether that's just because of their diabetics. So we don't know if that's specifically because of semaglutide or because of their diabetes, if that makes sense. Because diabetics are at risk of kidney injury anyway. But there is a potential risk of injury to the kidneys, but I think that that's quite low. But it's something that you need to be aware of. You need to keep an eye on. If you ever had any symptoms, then you would need to get them checked out. And the most important thing to avoid getting any kidney problems is to drink a lot of water. You need to drink a lot of water, because not only does this reduce your appetite, it reduces your thirst as well. So you need to kind of increase the amount you drink. That's not a long-term effect. Like I said, that's an acute injury, a short, somebody was in hospital for one day, I think, the case study that I read, and then got out of hospital. On the liver, there seems to be agreement that there is a good effect on the liver, that this is good for your liver. It's good for fatty liver. They haven't yet got the conclusive evidence, but everybody seems to agree that this is good for your liver. Long-term use on pancreas. There is nothing really on long-term use in people that don't have diabetes for this drug. There just isn't yet. There isn't the studies out there. However, there is that risk of pancreatitis that I talked about. But all of the evidence on studies in people that have suffered pancreatitis taking semaglutide has been in diabetics. Again, it's not been tested on non-diabetics, but you will increase your risk if you are eating a lot of fat and drinking a lot of alcohol. I think alcohol is probably the number one risk factor for pancreatitis, as far as I can see from my experience. Like I said, I seem to have been exposed to an extraordinary number of people that have had pancreatitis and pancreatic cancer. I can think of 6 off the top of my head that are like close to me, like one of my aunties, another auntie, an uncle, my brother-in-law, a friend, and also I've seen a very similar thing with Watson, my dog, with his inflammatory bowel disease. So she didn't ask for any other area, but there hasn't been any long-term studies, like I said, in humans that are not diabetic taking this weight loss drug. So that's something you need to consider. Is it worth it to you to take the risks that are known or not? For me, so how I feel about this, my biggest risk of health issues is with my heart, because it runs in my family. So my nan had a stroke. My dad died of a cardiac arrest, but he'd had 2 heart attacks previous to that. His brother dropped dead in his 40s of a heart attack, of a heart condition. It runs in my family, but I also have high cholesterol, which is not related to weight. My cholesterol was pretty much the same when I was skinny. When I was 9 stone, my cholesterol was the same. It's a familial issue, familial cholesteremia. They call it hypercholesteremia. I also have high blood pressure. I have an irregular heartbeat, and so all of these things are monitored, and I'm on a lot of drugs to reduce my heart rate. I've got high heart rate, high blood pressure, so I'm on drugs for both of those things, and it just keeps on going up. And again, with my cholesterol, I'm not yet on statins, but we'll see if that happens or not. So for me, heart risk is the biggest, and there also seems to be agreement that this is good for your heart, that if you take semaglutide, Wegovy, Ozempic, etc., it's going to be good for your heart, it's good for your liver, and that's because you're reducing your cholesterol. Basically, you're reducing your fats. So it's good for fatty liver. They don't have conclusive evidence, but they believe it is, and it's good for the heart. We don't yet know what it could do to the kidneys and pancreas. But for me, I've always had a healthy kidney. I have had lots of kidney tests because I've had lots of bladder issues, but they've never gone to my kidneys. I've not had too many digestion problems in the stomach area. I've had indigestion a lot, but not any digestion problems. That's something I'm keeping an eye on. But I'm happy to take the risk of that because I think it's better to be beneficial to my heart, which is where my risk lay. But also for me, it may help my migraine eventually, because the less fat you have, the less circulating inflammatory markers there are and inflammatory chemicals there are, and the less hormones, and it's just all round better for you. So it may well help my migraine in the long run. That's the hope. So that's how I feel about the long-term effects that we know of. The next question was, how quickly do you gain weight if you stop taking it? So I looked this up to find out. I knew that you would gain weight if you stopped taking it. Most people would, apart from Sharon Osbourne. We'll talk about her in a moment. But there was a study done in 327 adults that took semaglutide for 1 year, and then followed them up for a year after they stopped. And in the year after they stopped, they all gained back 75% of their weight. Was it 75% of their weight, or was it 75% of them gained back their weight? I'm now not sure of that, which way round it is. but you'll gain the weight back. And approximately a year or two, you may well be back at your same weight. Something has to change. So the chemicals are changing and allowing you to lose weight. But if you just rely on that and eat nothing but rubbish, then you're going to go, when you stop it, you're going to go back to eating the rubbish. So for me, I'm hoping that my body is now hopefully in a habit of not snacking as much, or finding different snacks. So I'm not eating crisps at the weekend, and hopefully that's one big difference. I'm not drinking as much alcohol, and I'm hoping that that is a habit rather than just the chemicals, but it's definitely assisted by the chemicals. So yeah, you will probably gain it back unless you make some new habits. Okay, so the final question is, what happens if you can't gain weight or continue to lose weight like Sharon Osbourne did? So I had a bit of a further look into the Sharon Osbourne thing, because I had seen a few articles talking about Sharon Osbourne and that issue, and that's what I thought had happened. However, what happened was she was on Ozempic and then realised she'd got to the weight she wanted to. So she stayed on Ozempic but kept on losing weight unintentionally. So then she stopped Ozempic when she was like, okay, I've lost all the weight I need to, I'm now losing even more weight, so she stopped Ozempic. She then found it difficult to put the weight back on. That was in January this year, so it is pretty early. But since then, she has said she's now putting the weight back on and has stabilised. She says that it took three to 4 months of being off of Ozempic to enable her to stabilise and put the weight back on. So the answer to what happens if you can't gain weight, well, the thing is, this is the only person I've ever heard of that has had this problem. I haven't, in all of the reviews and videos and stuff I've seen, I've never seen anybody else with this issue, only Sharon Osbourne. It hasn't been a long-lasting issue. It has been 3 to 4 months after she stopped Ozempic or Wegovy, whichever one she was on. I think it was Ozempic. The problem has sorted itself out. The only thing I would say about that is she's on Big Brother at the minute, and I watched the Celebrity Big Brother last night and watched it this morning, and oh my goodness, she looks so slim. I think she could do with putting more weight on, but I don't think she's struggling to put weight on. It'll be interesting to see if she says anything more in Big Brother. But this is an isolated case. For the majority of people I've shown in that study, they put the weight back on, their appetite comes back, no problem. So what happens if that's you? I don't know, because we don't know what Sharon's going through health-wise. We don't know if she's got any underlying health conditions. There might be conditions she doesn't know she has. There might be medications she's on that are affecting that. We just don't know what the reason is, but it doesn't seem to be a common thing. If it is a common thing, I think we would hear more about it. But if it is a common thing, then the drug companies should be reporting back to, assuming that the people experiencing it are reporting to them, are being honest about what's happening, they should be reporting it to the MHRA in the UK. They will find out the drug industry, and they will, it will be flagged and investigated, etc. But like I said, we don't really know the long-term effects of this. That's all for the questions. So let me give you I've got a couple of tips here, if you like, and hopefully I've told you everything. Hopefully I've remembered to tell you everything. The first tip is drink enough water. Do whatever you need to do. If you're planning on taking this, do whatever you need to do that will mean you drink a lot of water, whether or not that is setting yourself reminders, downloading a water drinking app. There's ones that can actually remind you. Buying water bottles to put all over the house. That's what I've done. I've bought more water bottles, and I've got one in my gym bag. I've got one in my study. I've got one normally in here, but it's actually in the living room. So drink more water, because that will avoid a lot of there's a lot of side effects and issues that come from being dehydrated. And if you are hydrated, that will resolve a lot of the issues. And it'll also mean you eat less anyway, because sometimes hunger is mistaken for thirst. My second one is to inject in your thigh. I can't remember if I told you about this, but I did inject in my stomach once, and I got a little bit of nausea. And there is a lot of people that say that they find injecting in their thigh doesn't make them as nauseous. And I don't know if it's got a longer journey to get to the stomach. But I would do that if I was you. That's what I'm going to continue to do. Create new habits if you can. So don't just think, well, hey, I can eat what I want and eat a rubbish diet, because if you do that, you are risking getting pancreatitis, you are risking kidney injury, and you're also risking the fact that when you can no longer afford it or don't want to take it anymore, you'll have no new habits and you'll just put the weight all back on again. I've put care with side effects, like, I talked about constipation. If you have constipation, do something to solve it, or go to the doctors if not, because if you leave it for too long, it can end up serious. and plan. The last thing is plan. It's really boring. You hear this about diets, you know, you need to plan, and I'm like, oh God, that's so boring. Especially because I now have on my Sunday to-do list, I have boiled eggs, but it's working for me. And I wouldn't, if I didn't enjoy those when I ate them, it might not be as easy to do, to put into my weekend schedule, you know, but it's so quick. I do them in the air fryer. I put roast, choose the roast option, 120 Fahrenheit and 12 minutes. No, 16 minutes, apologies. I keep saying 12 minutes, that's something else. 16 minutes in the air fryer. I always worried about them exploding. They haven't exploded. I've done this about 4 times now. And it's so easy. You have to put an alarm on or hear your air fryer stopping and take them out with a spoon immediately and put them into cold water. But I've been doing that, and it's so quick, and it's so much easier to eat healthier when you plan. And so I think, I don't know, maybe you're like me. I always want a quick fix for things. You know, I want it to happen now, and I want it to happen with no effort. I don't want to put any effort in. Lazy, obviously. I don't consider myself a lazy person, but with that kind of thing, I obviously am. But it really is worth it for me because I really enjoy my egg. I chop up my egg, I have a little bit of salt on it, like I said, have it usually with the sweet corn and sometimes avocado and some raw carrots. And I love that I'm eating something healthy and that I'm really enjoying it. So it's worth that little bit of planning and doing something extra for. That's really it. I don't think there's anything else to tell you about my experience that I can think of. I don't think there's anything else. I might try and be brave and take an after picture of me now and do a before and after for you. I do have a before picture, and it's not very flattering at all. I don't think the after picture will be that much different. I don't know. I feel like if I lose 2 stone, the before and after would be a bit more impactful, but 1 stone, I don't know, but I can tell you that I feel different in my clothes. I feel better in myself, like I've said. And for me, it's been totally worthwhile. It's been worth every penny, and I will continue to do it as long as I can. And I will tighten my belt in other areas to be able to afford this because it's really working for me very well. And I'm really happy with how it's working. And it's worth the risks to me because I feel like I'm reducing my heart risk. I'm actually due a heart health check where they do my cholesterol, and I just keep thinking I'll just wait till I've lost a little bit more weight and see if that does affect it at all, and hopefully I won't need to, you know, increase my medication at all. So for me, it's been totally worth it, and I really enjoy doing it through Pharmacy Online. And yeah, if you've got any other questions, if you've got any other questions at all, put them in the comments below and I'll do my very best to answer them. I may not do it quickly, but I will do my best to answer them when I have a pain-free day. And I wish you the best of luck. Let us know your experience if you've tried any of these, what you think, and yeah, best of luck. Bye-bye.